Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Saturday night here with us at Apollo Racing Club. My name, as always, is Matt McAdams. Joining me for the action tonight is going to be none other than Thomas Castellani. Tom, how are you feeling tonight? Oh.
Great, absolutely wonderful. This is another one of my... I think I'm breaking up.
You might be just a little bit, so I'll give you a second for that to get caught up. He's in the middle of surprise update by Assetto Corsa. Got some new livery packs added into the game, and it's been kind of a challenge for everybody to get it updated and working. But tonight we are going to be racing at the Zolder circuit over in Belgium, and it is going to be an interesting one, as has been kind of the pattern of the last several races here at Apollo Racing Club. We've got a lot of the field very close to one another in terms of pace. We had, I think it was the top 11 cars all setting 128s in practice, which means we're gonna have a very exciting front of the grid. But we are just now getting qualifying ready to go, as I'm sure you guys can all hear the engines roaring in the background as we have a couple of cars getting ready to start their first out laps. Let me find who it is to be the first one to kick this off, and then we will get the cameras over. Well, I'm not sure if it's his out lap or not, but we're gonna go ahead and take a look over at Roadside Cookie here. Beginning his charge down the straight into the first chicane. And this track, Zolder Circuit, very well known for its chicanes specifically. There are 3 of them, each of them more tricky than the last. Roadside Cookie coming into the second of those 3 right now. As you see this train of cars, it's a long, sweeping left-hand downhill corner into a very heavy braking zone, into an even trickier chicane, and then exiting it isn't even all that fun, as we can see. Roadside Cookie there going out just a little bit wide into the grass, but managing to keep that Porsche the straight, heading straight down the track. And it looks like our first hot lap of the qualifying session is going to come from Tommy Kogan, and is quickly snatched away by Xu Chen, setting the first fast lap of the race, going to be a 128.107 as the time to beat. And as we were seeing during qualifying, these 128s are going to be the competitive time for the faster pack of the grid. We see Matt Byrne here rounding the first corner there, just set a 128.86. We've also got Roadside Cookie in with a 129.85, Rick Reeder with a 130.4, and Jack McDonald, the newcomer, with a 130.7. And I say newcomer, I believe his debut race was 2 weekends ago, not at Misano, but I believe that would have been at Kyalami, if I'm not mistaken. And making a strong showing here at Zolder. We've got a couple of cars actually pretty stacked on top of one another here. Paul Wallenstein on the defense, got a Ferrari chasing him down. Let's see who that is. I believe that's Billy Carlin behind him in the 438. It is. All right, now this qualifying session already starting to get pretty interesting here. I'll go ahead and take away the car numbers and throw up the personal bests here, just so we can see a little bit of an idea of what the grid is looking like so far. And we've got plenty of 129s, a couple of 130s in the mix, and it looks like we just got our third 120, followed by a fourth 128. It was gonna be Nick Schwartz, and I believe that was Matt Byrne to set the other one. But right now, we've got a couple of people on very, very good laps. Jack McDonald right now coming into the final chicane, exiting onto the start straight here. Got 1.7 seconds of a personal best coming across the line right now. We'll go from a 130.7 up to a 129.1, gaining him 11 positions, moving him up into 6th place inside of the top 10. And plenty of time to keep improving on that lap time. Speaking of improvements, we've also got another one here. Guillermo Martinez, currently about a half second up on his lap. Let's see where on the track he is, coming into that final chicane now as well. And certainly the only man to outdo himself here is going to be Xu Chen. Currently has the purple border around him as he is on pace to set the fastest lap of the session. Looks like it just got away from him. We got a yellow flag here. Alan Zhu going to have it brought back to the pits. And Felix Payant right now under a little bit of pressure at his Xu Chen behind him. Currently sitting P1, gonna have to back off there. And we've got a Porsche off the track on the outside. It's a very, very tricky corner, that turn 4. Got a couple of other cars pretty close to one another. Let's see if we can't catch them battling here. Ice Tin goes through. It looks like he got around. The other car is just going to let him through. And this first chicane is going to be one to watch, folks. It's a long straight into a very tight chicane. And a lot of different people with different opinions on where that braking zone is. Should lead to some excitement once we get the race going. But let's take a look over at Guillermo Martinez again. Just a little bit back in the pack we were watching through here. Exiting the second chicane now. Has just a little bit less than a half second. He went into that chicane with 8/10. Looks like it bled a little bit of that away going through there. But finding some at the hairpin now, up a half second.
How about now?
I can hear you just fine now.
All right. Well, happy to be back. And, yeah, really looking forward to this race. As always, this is a track that I absolutely love. It's such good fun. It's sort of almost like a karting track, but with massive curbs, and just absolute pleasure to drive and spectate. So yeah, happy to be here.
And a fun track this one is indeed, and actually I don't think I could have described it better. It is a lot like a karting track. And the exciting thing about that is, especially with 24 cars on the grid, it is going to be close quarters. There's not a lot of room all over the track here. Certain places lend themselves better to passing than others. But really, this is going to be it's kind of going to be a bit of a battle in quali just to see how high up in the grid you can get before things get too crowded during the race here. Right now, Ice 10 going through the second chicane. Has a little bit of company. That's going to be Joshua Kimball right behind him. And Josh Kimball looking to post an improvement here. We saw 130s out of him in qualifying, so we know he has it on taps here. Just waiting for an opportunity to let that out onto the track. But you were going to say something, Tom?
Yeah, with a lot of chicanes, it does make it a little bit difficult to find space on track sometimes. I think we just saw out of the, I want to say it's the first chicane. It's the one with the biggest curb, which is so much fun in the Bentley because you can just get all four wheels off the ground and throw the car all the way across the curb. But what you do see sometimes is cars then losing it on the exit there. We saw a Lamborghini going off, being towed back to the pits. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, that first curb at the chicane, I speak from experience. I have seen cars jump over one another there. It can be done if it is hit hard enough. So it's really one you got to watch out for. Maybe not so much in the GT3s, but especially if you're racing some of the classes that don't have tire blankets, that first curb can end races. You can knock all of the air out of your tire there if you're not careful. But so far, it doesn't look like anybody is too eager to take flight there. It looks like pretty much everybody taking the safe line through there. We can see Ice Tin going to go ahead and abandon that lap. Let's take a look over at Nick Schwartz.
I see that our friend and colleague Fred is in the chat. He actually christened the Bentley Space Program.
I forgot about that.
Through that, as a result of that curb. But you're very right in that the times at the top are looking as close as ever. We've got a second covering the top 9 cars currently. That's Xu Chen, Javier Marquez, Tommy Kogan, Zach Doran, Matt Burns, Nick Schwartz. Oh, there's a new name. So apologies to Mr. Doppler. I don't have your first name currently. Jack McDonald, Rick Reeder right there. Yeah, we've got a couple. It's always nice to see. We've had it throughout the season, some new drivers joining, so it's always really great to see more and more people on the grid.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, I was looking away, didn't realize we were looking at a car in the pits there. We have a couple of new names, as I mentioned just a little bit ago. Jack McDonald joining us just a couple of races ago. There are a few others that signed up that I'm not quite seeing yet, but Seeing as we're about halfway through the season, still picking up new drivers. Definitely happy to see that. It's going to lead to some full grids here. As we can see, 24 cars out on the track today. And on a shorter circuit like Zolder, that is going to mean some tight racing to be seen throughout. Let's see, Xu Chen looking to make another attempt at the fastest lap of the session right now. Just narrowly hanging on to that lead with the purple border. We'll be watching him throughout the race for sure.
Anyone who's spent time with ACC will know that it's a little bit guarded. It's finicky about showing first names, but yeah, I'd like to welcome Christian Judkins and Derek Doppler here with us today at Zolder. So Derek in the McLaren there in his debut race with us. Pretty strong opening with the 7th place quali at the moment, sitting in the pits.
And with this competitive time, nonetheless. I mean, anything in the 128s is starting to. I mean, that's where you start to see the boys turn into men when you're racing at that pace. So to show up and set a time like that on your first showing might be a bit of a statement from the new driver. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's made of when it comes race time. Xu Chen there setting another fastest session or lap of the session. Going to be a 1:28.0, shaving about a tenth of a second off. Let's go ahead and take a look over at Max Sunken lap right now in the Aston Martin, rounding the second chicane now, coming up into the hairpin. Over a half second of improvement since his previous lap. Maybe looking at joining the 128 gang. It looks like he might, but he goes a little wide on the exit of the hairpin. And that will be that lap invalidated. He's got plenty of time to get back out there and set it again, though. And we now know he has the pace on taps there. He just got to unleash that. Paul Wallenstein here, coming down the straight into the final chicane. 2/10 in the delta there for a new personal best.
Yellow flag showing there, probably someone stopping after a hot lap. So Paul has come through and is sitting currently 20th now.
Xu Chen finds even more pace. Somehow the man has done it. And shaves a couple of hundredths of a second off of that lap time, broadening the gap to second place Zach Doran. Let's go ahead and look at the session best relative there over on the side of your screen. Let me see, just shy of 2/10 between him and second place at the moment.
See that Xu Chen is just 15 hundredths off of being into the high 27s there. It really is quite frightening.
The man is a quick driver, and we kind of get to see him all over the place. Races and endurance races. We see him over at Delta Racing League every week, and I think that's just the practice and the experience that he has really starting to show here, because that man is always driving. Another one of them, Matt Byrne here, getting ready to finish his lap, coming into the final chicane now. A 10th up on his previous best. That will be enough to displace Javier Marquez if he can hang on to it and snag a podium start for himself.
Zach Doran dropping himself into the top three amongst the championship contenders. I believe we're missing Jeff Spangler today. He's another one of our top tier contenders. Matt Byrne is currently leading the championship with 1 win and 2 third places, so very consistent, constantly on the podium. Javier Marquez has a win, a 5th and a 2nd. Xu Chen has only a 2nd, a 2nd and a 4th, so Xu Chen is actually chasing his first win here, but still sitting in a very strong 3rd in a championship, so a lot to play for, and I'm rooting for Xu. I think he's had it. It's been so close the last few races. It's always, you know, to be second in the first 2 races of the season, that really shows the pace that he has. But yeah, Matt Byrne just staying consistent. He sits 3rd right now, just 0.25 off of the top place, and Xu Chen has gone down, just shaving even more off of his lap time, down to a 27.980. So Zach Doran has improved as well, so he takes, I think, another 0.025 to 2500ths, let's say, off of his time. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be really tight.
And looking at their fastest laps, it does appear that Zach Doran has about a 1/10 advantage on Xu Chen in the final sector of the circuit. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can capitalize on that on this lap. Doesn't look like this will be the one having to get around some traffic, about a half second down. Let's take a look over at Julio Ortiz, about a half second up on his lap. And crossing the line, that'll certainly be worth some positions here. Moves himself from 16th up into the top 10 with a P9 qualifying lap there, with just a little less than 3 minutes left to go in the session. Definitely a lap he is going to be happy to have banked in there, right there, the final minutes of qualifying. Newcomer Derek Doppler also looking to set another personal best on this lap. Looks like he's bleeding away a little bit of speed here coming up the hill into the second chicane. Let's see if he can get some of that back. He was 0.2 up going into this, and he is narrowly hanging on to that green delta. I wish we had maybe just a little bit more precision there on the numbers, so it wasn't 0.0, might see the hundredths ticker, but he is still technically in the green. By how much, we'll see by the time he gets to the end of the lap. There we go. Brings it up to a 1/10 lead now. Down into the final chicane. The exit here, very, very important. A nice little kiss of the apex there, and it looks like he gets on the throttle just in time. He will secure a personal best and shaves off just a hair over 1/10, moving him up a position into 6th place with 1.5 minutes left in qualifying.
Spots Derek directly behind his McLaren counterpart, Tommy Cogan. So got a battle of the McLarens coming there, and it's not the easiest car to wrestle around this circuit with the high curbs, but there's certainly the second chicane you can really hustle a car through there, and it's almost like Misano, where you have to find out how much you can cut exactly. I think we've probably lost the cones already at this point.
And that's going to be an indicator of really who's been racing for long enough to know not to use anything that can be moved as a braking marker. This is one of the tracks that will punish you for it. You need physical marks here, because those brake signs are going to get knocked all around the track.
My favorite is the entire bundles of tires that go rolling down the track as though they're made out of polystyrene. So yeah, both of the newcomers putting in very, very respectful times.
And there, the checkered flag on this qualifying session will wave. We have a couple of people out on the track still looking to post improvements. Christian Judkins among them. Currently up a 10th. We've also got Max Sunkenlap looking for about a 1/4 second improvement, as is Andre Lloyd, as we wait for this qualifying session to end. Bear with me here for just a second, folks. I'm trying to sort out a couple of things. It does look like Christian Judkins is going to hang on to that lap, so let's go ahead and take a look over at Max Sunkenlap. Looks like he's rounding the chicane now as the camera gets panned over to him. He might even be able to sneak in a 1/2 second improvement here. There it is, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, finding even more time, rounding the final chicane. Now onto the final straight here. Just has to keep his right foot down. He will secure a personal best and moves himself up 6 positions after the clock has lapsed with a 128.882, adding himself to the list of cars to score a 128, and that is going to be the top 9 contenders. Top 10, Julio Ortiz, less than a 10th off of the 128 mark. That is going to mean some very, very interesting racing come race time, as we have learned in sessions past, that when we see qualifying this stacked on top of one another, it almost certainly is going to lead to exciting racing. But that is going to be the qualifying session over. And let's see here. There we go. Yeah, no, that's right. The whole grid is there. I thought for some reason some of them were missing from the front, but I forgot Zolder's a little weird and they don't quite line up with the starting grid there. But first place going to be Shu Chen up here at the front, as we like to do every race here. I like to do a little bit of a course walk, even though, why did it put me on Andrew Jaski? Let's go to the front of the grid. There we go. All right, let's take a look at all of these liveries here. Again, at Apollo Racing Club, we do allow full custom liveries, so the drivers are allowed to do whatever they want with their cars. And I like to just take a little bit before the race, take a look, walk down the grid, and look at some of these works of art there. Tommy Kogan's McLaren there on the right. We can see not only do these drivers love putting in the time to be able to practice and race at the rate that they are, they also put their time in off the track, make their cars look nice and pretty. Nice little expression of themselves. And as somebody who has done more than one custom livery for leagues like this, I definitely appreciate the craft.
Yeah, I just only noticed recently it's got Felix Payan and Andre Lloyd in inverted teammate colors there with the 2 Audis, the red and the gray. That's very nice.
Oh yeah, I see that. That is really cool.
And of course, can't fail to mention, it's impossible not to spot Matt Byrne. And he is sitting at the top of the standings and entering this race, so he's got a lot to play for, but you just have to wonder whether he's going to go for the race victory or to try to play it safe for the championship. I think a lot of guys just like to race.
And myself among them.
You want to win the race. Yeah. Championships are nice, but no, of course. No, we're very interested to see what happens in terms of the championship standings, and it just gives the drivers just a bit more encouragement to fight for that extra position and push themselves, and it's a competitive sport.
Indeed. I know I'm not being super talkative here, but I'm currently trying to get logged into my Twitch account so that I can actually watch the race along with you all, but for some reason it doesn't want to let me, which is super fun to deal with right now. But we're going to begin our formation lap here. Last opportunity for the drivers to kind of take a look at the track, try and plan out some of the spots during qualifying and practice that they knew wasn't necessarily a strong suit of theirs. It's their last chance to do it, not at race pace, but more importantly, get brakes up to temperature, tires up to temperature, everything settled in, get into the zone, really.
That's it. I mean, in terms of being on the grid and making those final setup changes, there's very little you can do without perhaps giving yourself more than you can handle. If that's once you're there, the setup you have is what you have. The drivers are just getting the right fuel loads. They're making sure their pit stops are set up. You know, we've got very nice clear weather here today, so I would imagine that we wouldn't have drivers needing to set up wet pit stops or additional strategies for adverse inclement weather. Not impossible, but I'd say looking at the virtual skies, it seems unlikely. So yeah, I think we should have a good dry race.
Whoops.
Everyone's got their correct tires on. I saw one of the McLarens getting a little bit sideways over the aforementioned large sausage curb. Already with cold tires, so we've got a 20-minute pit window that starts 20 minutes into the race. So the drivers will want to get through the first 20 minutes, and then they have a good portion of time in which they can choose to pit. They will have a mandatory tire change within that window, so they can't do it before or after and not be either penalized or have to make another pit stop. And yeah, I would imagine a lot of them will be, well, all of them will be taking fuel in that time, unless they really enjoy riding with a lot of fuel. Got a Audi off the track, but it looks like they're making their way back into their correct slot.
But as we say our final remarks here, the race is getting ready to get underway. The cars have lined up double file. They are coming down the pit straight right now, and all we are waiting for is the green flag to get this race started. Very important that Xu Chen has a strong start here. As the green flag drops, the lights are lit. He's got the inside line. Let's see if he can get out wide enough to stay out in front of Zach Dorn. It looks like he is going to the front of the grid, staying nice and tidy. Let's take a look at the middle there, over there on the side screen. Looks like everybody got through turn one relatively drama-free. We can see Max Dunlap hugging the inside of Andrew Jaski just out in front of him. But the first couple of turns have gone relatively drama-free. Let's keep our eyes on the middle of the pack. Tommy Kogan right here chasing down another McLaren.
We had Jan Stam around in, I think, the turn 2, turn 3. So luckily, no one came across and collected him, so he's back on track.
We saw a daring pass there, and it looks like there's contact between two cars there. I think that's Max Dunlap spun around there at the exit of the first chicane. It is. And just before that happened, we saw a pretty interesting pass there by Nick Schwartz on the outside through turn 1 on Tommy Kogan. I'm sure he's going to be looking to get that position back as soon as he is able. Xu Chen starting to grow a bit of a gap to second place Zach Doran. There's about a half second between the two of them, but let's take a look up on the grid right now. Newcomer Derek Doppler putting some pressure on Matt Byrne here. The battle for fourth place is starting to emerge, and on top of that, we've also got Julio Ortiz really trying to get around Roadside Cookie here. We might see him go for the move going into the final chicane. Thinks better of it. Not a lot of room to try and make the pass there. Julio Ortiz in the Aston Martin behind. And that is one lap done by race leader Xu Chen. And we can still see the pack is very tight as we race down into the second lap. And it looks like
just back, it seems as though Max Dunlap had a fair bit of suspension damage from that hit into the wall, so hopefully he can get it back to the pits and get that repaired. That will drop him back a fair bit. It seemed as though he got over the curb there, lost a bit of speed, and then was bonked in the rear by Andrew Jaski, I believe. Hopefully I'm not getting that wrong.
No, and it does look like Max Dunlap going to take an early unscheduled pit stop. Not the best of circumstances, but there is still plenty of race left to go, and we've got passes happening all over the place right now. Christian Judkins, another newcomer here to Apollo Racing Club, at least for me, making a pass on Tommy Kogan. Who's now kind of under a little bit of pressure by Roadside Cookie. Just behind him, Porsche driver has caught up. No problem there, but we have another train of cars developing behind Ice Tin here. Looks like a train of Audis. It is a train of Audis. All battling for 14th place right now, and actually I think it's even longer than that. Let's take a look at the manufacturers here, and look at that. We've got 4 Audis in a row right now battling behind Andrew Jaski, a BMW driver, for I believe that'd be, 12th place.
And I do need to correct myself because it was Christian Judkins who to touch the back of Max something lap. 1575 BMW Audi, it's all the same.
It can definitely be a little bit tough to distinguish them all when they're going this fast, but a good observation there. And we can see actually Rick Reeder really starting to put the pressure on Andrew Jaski here, coming around turn 3 now into turn 4. We can see him getting impatient there, having to check up on the brakes a little bit to not go into the back of the BMW in front of him. Now down into the first chicane. We'll see, he looks to the inside. He might be thinking about making a move here, but slots in behind. Uh-oh, and it looks like we've got a big yellow flag. Christian Judkins is going to go off wide in turn 4, and that's going to allow plenty of traffic to get around him there. We can see Andrew Jaski makes his way through right there, and an Audi has to take the runoff, and there's huge contact between Rick Reeder and I believe, was that Christian Judkins? No, it was not. It looks like he is spared as Ice Tin that is going to be involved in that. Not sure if somebody missed their braking marker or ran out of room and panicked, but that'll definitely be looked at by the stewards later.
Very difficult braking zone heading down into there. It's really dependent on your entry, so that the braking zone kind of changes as your laps change from lap to lap. So yeah, can be very tricky, but they got away with that incredibly well. So I think they'll probably be happy that it wasn't worse than it was.
And man, look at that. Our grid is still very, very stacked here as we go into now the third lap of the race, and we are still pretty much bumper to bumper single file lines here. Looks like Andrew Jaski making a pass on newcomer Christian Judkins there, just in front of the cameras. Through turn 2, it must have been. Now into turn 4, the BMW stays just out in front of that Audi, but the Audi's gonna have a bit of an advantage down the straight, getting the draft from the BMW in front. Don't think he'll be close enough for a move into the first chicane. Good, it looks like he thinks better of it. We also have a bit of a battle here for 7th place. Roadside Cookie on the defense here. Julio Ortiz has caught back up to him, but Nick Schwartz has entered the battle as we can see him nearly scraping the paint off of the back of Julio Ortiz Aston Martin there, as Jack McDonald starting to catch up here. A rookie season for him. Definitely been a successful one so far. Currently sitting P10 and in contention for 8th place as we round the hairpin. We've got 3 BMWs followed by 5 Audis and then an AMG in between. Uh-oh, and it looks like we've got a yellow flag. Felix Payan is going to be spun around. I'm not sure where he is. Let's see if the helicam's got him. There he is. Looks like he's must have gotten spun around in the hairpin based on where he is now and loses several positions as a result. Let's get back up to this battle between Nick Schwartz, Julio Ortiz, and Jack McDonald. Coming around, I believe that is turn 1. Now into turn 2, Nick Schwartz doing a good job on the defense of not leaving any openings for the Aston Martin to try and squeeze his way through. Zach Doran sets fastest lap of the race right now with a 128.855, 4/100ths of a second faster than Xu Chen, and he is starting to close down a gap that was greater than 1 second, down to just 6/10ths now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was really expecting Xu Chen to stomp away with the early fastest lap in the race, but as you say, Zach closing in quite rapidly and not letting Xu get away with it, so I mean, perhaps he'll have to wait for this win. We'll see. It'd be nice if he does grab it, but anything can happen.
Especially when we are this early into the race. We are only 4 laps in. Not even 8 minutes has come off the clock yet. Or 8, yeah, no, I was right. I said that right. Don't mind me. It's Saturday night. I'm a little tired. It's all good. I only do this every weekend. But yeah, Zach Doran starting to close the gap now inside of a half second of race leader Xu Chen. Sets another fastest lap of the race, shaves another 1/10 of a second off his previous best. And now we can put those two in the same camera angle, but just behind the two of them, we've got a repeat battle from several months ago. Javier Marquez and Matt Byrne currently battling for 3rd place. Some of you, it was mentioned in the Discord chat that these two had a very contentious battle the last time these two saw each other at Zolder Circuit. As we can see, they are now right behind one another again. And maybe we'll see a repeat of the action we saw about 8 months ago. Let's take a look over at Guillermo Martinez and Ice 10 as they're racing into turn 4. Ice 10 on the inside. There's contact. A light bump between the two of them is going to push Guillermo Martinez off wide into the runoff. Ice 10 going to stay to the inside and make the pass happen.
Yeah, it's very tight between the two Audis, but they do come off reasonably unscathed, I want to say, and Ice 10 maintains the place. Further up the road, Rick Reeder is closing in on Andrew Jaschke. So there's tight gaps all over the place, and the tightest duel, as we see BMW looking down the inside of, there's Jack McDonald on Julio Ortiz, and they're getting very, very close on the exit of the second and last chicane there. I think this is the, oh, I don't want to say it's the Villeneuve chicane, I think that's the one before, so. Jackie Yixbocht, I believe. So Jack McDonald looking down the inside into turn 1, but decides to back out, and he's actually got a Audi that of
Christian Judkins,
who's looking at around the outside. Jack's actually lost a little bit of time versus Julio Ortiz, so Julio Ortiz can take a little bit of a breather, and Jack is now having to defend more than he's able to attack over that big curb. This tight train of cars comes down the hill into the next chicane. Julio Ortiz taking a lot of curb, and I would imagine that potential track warning there in terms of just exploiting track limits a tad too much.
Well, this early into the race, you really got to be careful with that warning count. As soon as you're on the, it works like clockwork. You tend to see drivers get those first 3 warnings, and then they back off the pace a little bit because one more means a drive-through. And racking up those penalties early can be very, very costly in removing tools from your tool belt later down into the race.
Yeah, and it always seems to happen that the penalties come right near the end. It's last 10 minutes. What do they say? The accidents happen close to home, where they start to see that the checkered flag is going to be flying, and we've actually got Christian Judkins, I believe, made his way all the way around the outside there, so sorry for not being quite on the ball, but Christian Judkins takes the place from Jack McDonald, so Jack will now want to try to solidify himself in the place that he is currently, that's 11th, and try to make a fight back.
Well, he's going to have his work cut out for him because he runs the risk of Andrew Jaschke and Rick Reeder catching him, and they are experienced drivers. We've seen them quite a bit here at Apollo Racing Club. Certainly worth their snuff. We'll see if he's able to get away from him. It looks like he's starting to grow a little bit of a gap as he closes in on Christian Judkins to try and get that position back after we saw just a couple of corners ago. Made a great pass there on the outside from the rookie driver. And actually, I believe it's fair to say kind of both of them are rookie drivers to Apollo Racing Club, with this being Christian Judkins' debut race as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, indeed.
We will check back in with these two in a little bit. Right now, we're going to take a look over at Paul Vallenstein and Joshua Kimball, who are trying to catch up to it. I think Eric Gottsacker just got a little bit loose there. It looked like he was going to spin, but I believe he caught it. Alan Zhu there to capitalize on it, as is Jan Stam. Going into turn 1, it looks like he makes the inside line, and he squeezes through there. No drama to be seen. And we'll check back in with these two, a Porsche and an AMG, chasing each other around turn 2, now into through turn 3. And this one can be very, very tricky. A little stab of the brakes and then a lot of patience coasting the car around the corner. Both of them make it happen. Now a drag race into the first chicane. Oh, and something that we just missed off screen, and I'm not sure how it happened, but Javier Marquez has gotten around Zach Doran And now we have a 3-car battle for second place. The gap to Javier Marquez and Xu Chen, we can see there on camera, has gotten much wider. Outside of 3 seconds now, but this battle for second is now something that we're going to be wanting to watch there with Javier Marquez making that pass happen. Let me go see if I can get back in the replay and see exactly how that just happened.
Indeed, yeah, I think, well, I imagine you'll have it up soon, but yeah, Zach did just get a little bit squirrely.
Yeah, it does look like that mistake is really all it takes when you are racing at the level that these drivers are. You can see they're not pulling their punches at all.
To keep banging in those laps, those fast laps, and keep control of the car, particularly a car like the Porsche, which is a pendulum on wheels. Massive respect to those drivers. Derek Doppler is now the leading McLaren ahead of Tommy Kogan, so he's been able to move up. And shout out to Jan Stam, who's now made his way into 18th place, having dropped essentially to the back of the grid, bar Max Suntenlap, who dropped further back following contact on the first lap. So Jan Stam obviously sticking with it, no major damage on the car, just sticking in those laps and trying to, yeah, just bringing it back. And
ooh, and the first drive-through limits. Let's see, that's car number 19. That is going to be, that is Andre Lloyd, currently sitting P23. And then here, before we get too far away from it, I do want to pull up that replay of the pass on Zach Doran by Javier Marquez. So we'll go ahead and throw this up in the corner here. We see Zach Doran taking a pretty good line there into the second chicane, but just gets the rear end, wants to come around on him, and unfortunately just opens the door wide open for an easy pass there by Javier Marquez.
I'm gonna say it was an incredible save, because that could so easily have gone around, but he did manage to hold on to it, and you know, losing a second in that situation that's not too bad, you know, like, yeah, I'll take it. So but just to add to that, Zach has now dropped behind Matt Byrne as well, so perhaps just taking a little while to get back into the rhythm.
We see a great move there by Joshua Kimball going through turn 4, and I just want to say I tend to hang out in the practice, or in the Discord server during practice to hear what all the drivers are talking about and the things they're working on. That Joshua Kimball just made a pass in turn 4, the turn that he was struggling with the most in practice. Just goes to show how important it is to show up before the race and identify where your weak points are, because practicing that corner just netted him a position gain, and now he sits P16 with Paul Valentine behind him. Let's also take a look at the battle between Rick Reeder and Andrew Jaski starting to heat up, with Ice Tin starting to close the gap to catch up behind him now. Ooh, uh-oh, we've got a yellow flag on Joshua Kimball. Looks like he may have gotten a little bit loose there through the final chicane. Let me see if, oh, yep. Oh, and makes a little kiss of the guardrails there. So that is gonna be hopefully not too much damage that it slows him down too terribly much, but probably gonna be fighting a little bit harder than he wants to try and get those positions back. Although still in P18, up 2 positions from his starting position. So plenty more time to continue to improve on that.
Car 23, car 19, Andre Lloyd, he's taken his drive-through, but he was just sitting to the side of the track, and I think that might have just been to let some lap traffic through. I know that they have had some technical issues in the past, but back on the road. Said Andrzejewski, I think that's the closest battle we have at the moment, is Andrzejewski off the back of Rick Reeder, although Eric Gottsacker and Billy Cullen are both putting a bit of pressure onto Alan Zhu. Alan does like to play mind games in the heat of the battle, so I'm sure he'll be enjoying having a couple of cars behind him. With Hui Ortiz off the back of Jack McDonald as well, so that's kind of almost a 4-car, 5-car train if you want to include Justin Eistin there. And Guillermo Martinez not too far off either, so I think this fight from 10th through to 15th is going to be the one to watch for in the near future. And we've got one of the Porsches, I think it was Jan Stam, looking down the inside of Paul Wallenstein, opting to back out on that occasion, just trying to bring it slightly closer to the rear bumper of his Porsche counterpart.
Yeah, that's a good example of knowing when it's a good time to strike. He went for a pretty challenging, what would have been a challenging pass to complete there on the inside of that chicane. And unfortunately, because he went for it, he's found himself, rather than glued to the rear bumper, now a second off the back of the Porsche in front of him. And now has to fight harder, try and get that ground back there. But speaking of Porsches, Alan Zhu on the defensive by Eric Gottsacker coming into the final chicane. Too wide. It looks like Alan Zhu, I don't want to say he's out of it yet, but there goes the move made by Eric Gottsacker. And that was an excellent positioning pass there by the Porsche driver, the number 98 Porsche driver.
Alan tried to go for the defensive line, but then couldn't get on the switchback and get on the throttle there. So Eric, just by placing his car in the right way and putting the pressure and taking his usual optimal line, was able to get past. That was very well done. Just looking back up through, Justin Eistin is... Oh, as the splits change on me because Kunos things, thank you. No, they do a very good job. We're very thankful. Yeah, so Alan might be looking to regroup a little bit and fight back, but as we see on screen, Jan Stam is taking another crack at Paul Wallenstein. He has indeed closed that gap, so perhaps he'll just take a little bit more time to get a move set up here. Sitting in the slipstream, is going to pull out. No, thinks better of it. Follows Paul through the final chicane onto the main straight. It's going to tuck back into the slipstream and probably try to take a look into the first turn, which is a difficult overtaking spot. So again, following through, wide on the exit. Just putting some pressure. Perhaps he's waiting for Paul to make a little mistake. We do have the pit window open now. Andre Lloyd, has come into the pits for what I would imagine is his mandatory pit stop, having taken that drive-through. And Roadside Cookie we have as a yellow flag. I don't know if he's just entering the pits. And we'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, it looks like Andre Lloyd is going to be the first one to pit during the pit window.
Yeah,
oh, but hold on, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but we need to get on top of this one. Javier Marquez is caught up to Xu Chen for first place. They are within a quarter second of each other.
Putting the pressure on. We've seen these drivers fight throughout this championship, so they're very familiar with one another, and it's really putting the pressure on. But Xu is running a very fast pace, so it's not going to be easy for Javier, who's popping out. He's throwing dummies all over, and he's looking down the inside of that chicane, which is honestly not a fantastic spot to be trying to overtake, and he pays for that, having taken a lot of curb. Perhaps he wasn't expecting Shu to slow where he did and had to just duck out, but it's difficult sometimes when you're following a car so close you can't see what's in front of you, essentially. So I think he might just be ducking out for that reason, and now he's able to see a little bit better that he's not you know, climbing inside the exhaust pipe of Shu Chen's Lamborghini. So time to regroup for Javier, but that brings Matt Byrne into the fight as well. These three, Matt Byrne had just, was it just me or did he just disappear? I think he went into the pits.
It does appear that Matt Burns has gone for an early pit stop, yes.
Right, so he's decided to get out of the train and try and go for the undercut.
Yeah, and he was, I would argue, close enough to that battle where that may be a viable strategy for him.
Just to point out that the pit entry, it excludes the final turn. So if you see cars disappear in the middle of that chicane, that is most likely why. It's that they fired down the pit road. So it's kind of funny because it means that your entry you can carry more speed further into that portion. So it's almost like sometimes you see people just not braking and yeah, of course they're going into the pits. Just a nice tin. I see as being closer and closer to Andrew Jaschke, but that split is fluctuating quite a lot. So as we see Jan Stam just taking advantage of Paul Valenstein getting a slightly difficult exit, and they contact side by side. Paul still holding the inside line into the next chicane, so incredible racing from those two Porsches.
But it looks like Jan overcooks it just a little bit on the exit, and that is going to allow Paul Valenstein to run away pretty much unopposed. We've got a yellow flag. Eric Gottsacker facing a wall. Gets it whipped back around, is going to make his way back out onto the track.
I would imagine that's that curb biting again, given where he was positioned. Yeah, he's got damage as well, just looking, seeing the way the car is handling.
We got a couple other drivers.
Trying to figure out.
Couple other drivers into the pits as well. Looks like Paul Valenstein coming in right now. Roadside Cookie is on the jacks, as is Guillermo Martinez. We see a couple of cars gaining positions there, just passing them in the pits. But Matt Byrne does have nothing but clean air. If we take a look at where he is on track, give me just one moment here. He's got basically no one in front of him for the next 10 seconds of pace. So he is in an excellent spot to capitalize on this undercut, and we are going to see if it works out.
Yeah, and as I said before, Matt Byrne has had consistency on his side, so if he's able to be consistent with those lap times, and his overall race pace should be good in comparison to, even though Shu Chen and Zach Doran are setting really fast laps. I don't want to discount Javier Marquez from that as well, obviously sitting in first place currently. But yeah, it will be really interesting to see if Matt Byrne's tactic works out and where that pops him out in terms of the pit cycle. I was wondering what happened to the battle between Jan Stam and Paul Valenstein, but Paul has been in and out of the pits now, with Eric Gottsacker taking his mandatory pit after having contact with the wall, and Shu Chen as well is in the pits now up on Jack's. You see another car firing themselves off the into the pit road, pit lane.
It depends. They're the same thing.
I believe James Hinchcliffe and Alexander Rossi settled this on their podcast, but the conclusion escapes me.
I think it depends on the motorsport. 'Cause I feel like I more frequently hear pit road when you're talking American motorsport. You think NASCAR, IndyCar, things like that, but it seems to be pit lane for just about everybody else.
Well, there we go.
Looks like Javier Marquez into the pits. Derek Doppler and Zach Doran going to make the pass while he's in there. But looking at the undercut attempt there by Matt Byrne, it does not appear to be successful, as Xu Chen has come out of the pits and he has about a 3-second lead on Matt Byrne. Now the question is, where will Zach Doran and Derek Doppler sort back into the field? But Ice Tin really starting to begin to apply the pressure on Andrew Jaski. Now coming into turn 1, we can see very close to one another. Now through turn 2, opens it up to just about a half second, but keeping that BMW within striking distance. Might just be waiting for the right opportunity to go for the pass. Looking at their best laps though, Ice Tin does have a little over a half-second advantage on the car in front. So we'll see how this battle shakes out. It does look like Ice Tin starting to narrow that gap again, coming down into the first chicane.
It's an observation. Matt Byrne will have had those tires up to temperature, but Xu Chen does seem to be doing reasonable times, but it's catching Alan Zhu, so there's going to be a little bit of traffic for both of the net lead cars to deal with soon.
Well, and even more.
Marquez,
go ahead.
Sorry, drops back in between Xu Chen and Matt Byrne, so I believe we are as we were.
Yeah, that does appear to be the case. Now the real question is, where do Zach Doran and Derek Doppler rejoin back in? As we see 2 more cars, 3 more cars going to the pits in a train. It'll be Julio Ortiz, Andrew Jaski, and Ice Tin. Ooh, and the Porsche runs off wide. Not sure if that was intentional or not by Alan Zhu, but Xu Chen gets through now. Javier Marquez looking for his way through, and it looks like he makes that happen. No problem on the inside.
Yeah, not a lot of good spots to let someone by on this track, so Alan just trying to do what he can to let his leaders through, but it seemed as though Javier Marquez might have got a slightly better deal of it, and Matt Byrne makes his way through reasonably easily. So this the lead train of cars still quite tight, with Xu Chen having he's built a small gap, but certainly not insurmountable for the likes of Javier or Matt Byrne. We've got Julio Ortiz, Andrew Jaski, Justin Ice Tin all in the pits. Jaski just exiting, and Roadside Cookie has, I think, either spun or made contact with the barrier. Just trying to see where that is.
It does look to be a spin there.
Not sure if there's any damage on the car.
Doesn't appear to be.
So yeah, he's got it going back again in 18th place. Off the back of Guillermo Martinez. So Lee Ortiz now making his way past Billy Carlin in the Sol Ferrari on the grid. All 3 lead cars making their way through there. Christian Judkins in the pits. Derek Doppler. Got just almost 8 minutes still on the pit window, so plenty of time for some of the now lead cars to make their mandatory pit stop. As everything gets figured out here, just going to see where Derek Doppler and Christian Judkins both come out. So currently they're being shown as in front of Xu Chen, but as Christian Judkins actually gets a stop and go 30, so unfortunately it seems as though either the pit limiter wasn't engaged, or what can happen sometimes is if you shift into second gear, that disengages the pit limiter. So if you're leaving the pit lane, that might have been what happened to Christian. Very unfortunate. And Zach Doran, another one of our top contenders, is now in the pits along with Nick Schwartz, Jack Godard, and that's it. That's end of sentence.
Yep, and I do see chat's asking Doran pit. Can we see him come out? Yes, we will. I've got him pulled up on the other camera. I'm gonna wait until we see him come off the jacks, and we'll see where he joins back into the pack. It looks like Julio Ortiz and Ice 10 are back at it again. As promised, here we go. We can see if my stream deck will obey me. There we go. Zach Doran off of the jacks, now working his way down the pit lane. Currently sitting P4, and there's contact between Julio Ortiz and Ice 10. It looks like the Aston Martin just manages to avoid staying out of the wall, but Zach Doran going to leave the pits. It looks like P7, just behind Matt Byrne.
Right, so we've got 3 cars who are yet to pit. So Jack being in the pits currently. Yes, yeah. 7, so that's net 4th place still for Zach, but yeah, the times are tight, so he can certainly close into the back of Matt Byrne with the 20 minutes, well, more than 20, 25 minutes of the race remaining. Just looking down, Max Untenlap has come in for his pit stop, so I got a feel for Mac. It went, well, I don't want to say wrong, well, it didn't go wrong very early in the race, but you know, they've stuck at it, and they're circulating, and they're salvaging what they can from this race. So
well, that was a great move there by Jack McDonald. Sorry to cut you off there, but that was a daring pass there by the BMW driver coming into the first chicane, and manages to make it stick nonetheless. Moves himself up into 14th place. And we've got up towards the front of the pack, Javier Marquez and Matt Byrne starting to close on each other, getting inside the 1 second mark. We'll check in with them as soon as we see that gap shrinking back down. Other than that, really, we're just waiting for the last couple of drivers to finish their pit stops. They've got 4 minutes to do so. Right now, we've got Tommy Kogan in. We've got Alan Zhu on the jacks. And that leaves just Rick Reeder and Jan Stam to get their pit stops done.
Indeed, and it looks like Christian Judkins has cleared that stop and go, so I would expect to see him trying to make up a few places again now, given that it's pace-wise is probably out of position a little bit. Got a bit more under the hood of that Audi.
A yellow flag for Joshua Kimball there on the exit of the the final chicane there coming down pit straight. It looks like the rear end just got away from him a little bit, but no damage to the car that I can see.
Coming out around about 15th place currently. Let's see if that changes following his pit stop, one or the other. Tommy Kogan about to emerge. Interesting to see where this drops Tommy, because he's still being shown as in first place, but I would imagine the top 4 are going to be coming through very soon.
Yeah, he's, well, looks like he's let out into P7.
Right. It's just about where we would expect, and so that potentially reignites his battle with Derek Doppler, the other McLaren driver.
Now with just one driver left to finish the pit stop, Jan Stam. Let's see where it's predicting he's going to come back out onto the field here. Looks like he'll come out in P14 when he has finished his pit stop, and it looks like he comes in now. Ooh, and Xu Chen in the second half of the race comes out and sets the new fastest lap of the race, just a hair faster than Zach Doran. Does a 128.322 compared to Zach Doran's 128.457.
Yeah, well, now it's very difficult not to root for Xu to take this win. But I want to say finally, three races isn't a lot, but clearly he's been banging on the door of a race win for a little while.
Whoa, what a pass by Xu Chen there. My goodness. We got to do the instant replay there. Watch this, everybody. Goes for the dive on the inside on Alan Zhu. Somehow manages to hop the killer corner there, the curbing there on the inside of the second bump. Lamborghini driving on two wheels and still manages to get around that Porsche. Yeah, he deserves to win this race.
Yeah. And it's not just the driving, the setup work that goes into the cars to be able to get a Lamborghini to behave the way you want it to over curbs like that and still be just incredibly fast. That's a skill in itself. So our friend Fred knows that indeed. Drives a very loosely set up car. Terrifying, what I might say.
Ooh, Matt Byrne looking to make a move here on Javier Marquez. Ooh, tries to take that inside line, almost goes into him on the brakes there, and then we've got a yellow flag just in front of these drivers here. We've got Rick Reeder off the track, excuse me, that's Andre Lloyd off the track there.
Yeah, Andre just holding it for the time being until I think is passed. I'm not sure again if it's a technical issue for him, but Matt Byrne getting his nose chopped by Javier Marquez. Javier obviously not afraid to take the turn, and as we sit on board with Matt Byrne, you can see how bumpy that chicane really is. Trying to get under the rear wing of Javier Marquez, just tracking into the next chicane, and just as much as we see the back end of the Aston ahead, we've got a rear view mirror absolutely full of Porsche right there. So an intimidating sight indeed. Those three cars getting incredibly close to one another. Coming through on lap traffic of Max Sunton lap, I believe. Unless I completely misread what I was seeing there. Yeah, just as I said earlier, Jack has been able to close in to within 3/10 of the back of Matt Byrne. Simultaneously, Matt Byrne is just 7/10 off the back of Javier Marquez, and Xu Chen is really starting to gap as we've got a car off track there. I think it's just trying to let the leaders through. Joshua Kimball, I would imagine. So yeah, that is Mac just trying to let Matt Byrne by. So that's actually going to gap Matt from Javier just a tiny bit. As Mac is Mac and Matt. Mac lets Mac. Okay. You see what's happening. So yeah, no, Mac as well now then trying to let Zach Doran past, and we said earlier it can be very tricky here, but he's able to make it happen.
We'll take a look at this. Try. You see, I'm doing it too. We're gonna take a look away from that race up in front. Look towards the battle for P11. Guillermo Martinez and Jack McDonald have closed up on one another, coming into the first chicane now. Battle between an Audi and a BMW. Now down the hill and onto the brakes here in just a moment. You can see the nose of the Audi dip, and we have our first disconnect. I'm not sure who it was. Yeah, I'm not entirely certain who that was that just disconnected, but we have our first retirement from the race.
Sure, either. Said it's difficult to look away from any battle. We've also got Felix Payan very, very close to the back of Roadside Cookies, so the split we're showing 0.25. That's extended just again to 0.5, 0.6, so a little bit of yo-yoing going on there. I'm sure we can look back at Jack McDonald making a very valiant effort to get past this Audi, so just trying to stick to the back, get a good exit. Guillermo Martinez driving very, I want to say sensibly, just very, very calmly taking his lines. He's drifts to the inside a little bit there, just to throw almost a dummy to defend, but goes back onto the optimal line here now. Okay, so Guillermo goes for a slightly further outside line, and I'm not sure if Zach was able to get down the inside.
Sorry, and I pulled this away there just for a moment to take a look at the battle between Joshua Kimball and Christian Judkins. You see, it looks like Joshua Kimball has sustained quite a bit of damage to the front of his Mercedes. You can see the hood is bent up, and Christian Judkins going to make that pass with little to no effort. Now Alan Zhu is looking to get a piece of him.
Yeah, I think Joshua's just trying to hold on there with well, floppy hood syndrome, we call it. The top of the
the hood, the bonnet.
The hood latch on that, the bonnet, yeah. I wouldn't imagine it to, I mean, it doesn't flip up in this game, thankfully, and blind anyone, but yeah, it will definitely be making the car handle a lot worse than it would have out of the pit garage.
Oh, and it looks like the driver has reconnected. I believe it's Nick Schwartz has loaded back into the pit lane. It must have been him that disconnected.
It does seem as though Jack McDonald is sitting firmly behind Guillermo Martinez, and you do get a lot of rubber banding, I want to say, or accordion effect through the chicanes, as Guillermo was also looking quite close to Justin Eiston, but then Justin stretched away as they exited the chicane, so Jack was incredibly close just there. So you're going to run up into the final chicane. It is, in fact, Jackie X Bocht. So I'm just going to say, should I say Jackie X Corner?
I suppose so. It's line astern and more or less stalemate between these three, the second, third, and fourth place drivers. So Zach Durham will be looking to make his way onto the podium for sure. But they're just all driving at such a high level that it's to drive those lap times and then also just take that extra step to be able to pass someone who's also driving very, very fast. It's I mean, to some of us mere mortals, it's difficult to imagine. So I'm sure these guys are pushing really hard, even though they make it look easy. Just to give you guys an idea of the pace of these three cars, the last lap, Javier Marquez, it's a 129.377. Matt Byrne, a 129.195, and Zach Doran, it's a 128.5. These guys certainly not slouching, still with 12 minutes left in the race. They are pushing about as hard as these cars will suffer. Jack McDonald is closing back up on Guillermo Martinez, who is also caught up to Ice Tin, who was racing with Andrew Jaski. So we now have a 4-car battle for 8th place, excuse me. Ooh, Zach Doran almost glued to the back of the BMW in front of him, the 333 car, doing everything he can not to allow that Porsche through, while simultaneously trying to catch Javier Marquez.
Yeah, Zach giving a little peekaboo there just to get into the mirrors of Matt Bird and perhaps take his attention away, as we've got some dust kicked up by Javier Marquez. I don't know if that's something he's been doing throughout the race. They're just up on some lap traffic at the moment, as that not entirely sure which Porsche that is, or we do have this battle ongoing between now Justin Eiston, Guillermo Martinez, and Jack McDonald, as I was just holding my breath into that corner there. Boulderberg-Bocht? Okay.
Yeah, those corner names are not easy.
Every day is a school day. Zach Doran taking quite a lot of curb there, so he might have to watch out in terms of the number of track warnings, as we have only seen one drive-through and one stop and go. The stop and go was for a pit lane infraction. But yeah, usually it's if drivers start accumulating or accumulate more than 3, aka 4, track limits warnings, that is a drive-through. The only time I've seen it be anything more severe is just some oddities within the game where people spin across the wrong portion of track and it decides, well, that's a disqualification. But I don't imagine we'll be seeing any of those today, as we've got McLarens going side by side of we've got Tommy Kogan and
Derek Doppler.
Yeah.
Definitely putting on a strong performance, Derek Doppler, currently sitting P5, started P6, up a position and fending off an experienced driver, Tommy Kogan. Certainly a performance I'm sure he'll be happy with here in about 9 minutes for his debut race here at Apollo Racing Club.
Yeah, and as always, it's hard to know where the time goes because we are entering the closing moments of this race in the final 10 minutes. So for an hour-long race, it sure does go by fast.
And you blink your eye and you miss it.
Yeah. Eric's making a bit of a recovery now after having been off track, and he's closing in on the back of Billy Carlin. So it's all hotting up in the dying moments here.
I'm going to bring us back over to the battle between Guillermo Martinez and Jack McDonald, as these two are still at it. And even closer than ever before, just a quarter second between the two of them. The Audi driver having the defensive drive of his lifetime. And this BMW, I'm sure, has just got to be either he's got one of two things. Absolutely loving the battle, or just frustrated out of his mind. And I just saw the blinkers light up there, so I'm wondering if it's the latter.
He's always going to want to get past, but how soon as we see more dirt being kicked up?
I think it might just be now, as Guillermo Martinez loses the back end and puts the nose of his car into the wall.
It's very unfortunate. We'll have to see how that car is handling now that Guillermo's back on track. I mean, he's still able to salvage, say, 12th place here, but no, that's really unfortunate, seeing as they're having such a great battle.
Yep.
I was going to say before, it was incredible restraint that Jack was showing, not just, you know, absolutely outbraking himself into that, the hairpin or the right-hander before the final chicane, because that may well have been an option for him, but he has inherited the place indeed, and he's actually got just a few tenths up to Justin Eistin, who seems to be struggling towards the end of the race here. So that's a real surprise, or perhaps now that Jack has been unleashed, he's just been able to close in quite rapidly. So have Tommy Kogan just off the back of Derek Doppler, but those two aren't battling just yet.
We've also got Felix Payan and Roadside Cookie getting back into it now. Felix is caught up to Roadside Cookie yet again. These two we've seen, have kind of been magnetized to one another and occasionally rubber band off, but the battle is back on between these two. But I want to keep my eyes on Jack McDonald now that he has been unleashed onto Justin Eistin. Really, I'm curious to see if he was being held up by the other Audi. Man, we are both struggling tonight. Or if he is kind of just the same pace as these other two cars. But it does, my experience tends to suggest that he was being held back a little bit. And now he's just got a little bit more formidable of a foe to try and get around here.
Need to mention that Tommy Kogan was just off track for a moment there, so that's broken the battle between himself and Derek Doppler. It's very surprising, or very unusual to see Tommy make a mistake, but I'll be having a look back to see what went on there and let you guys know. Looking up front, Matt Byrne still within a second of Javier Marquez. It's fluctuating again, because Zach Doran just a moment ago, it was over a second from Javier down to Matt Byrne, and Zach Doran was very close to the back of Matt Byrne, and now it's 8 tenths between second, third, fourth, respectively. So quite, you know, equal gaps between those drivers.
Right now, riding on board with Jack McDonald now as he's continuing to chase down Eistin. I wanted to see this battle from inside the car. I don't know about you, but hugging another car within a quarter second of yourself with 3 minutes left on the clock, everything is on the line. Jack McDonald already securing himself a top 10 finish, looking to make it the top 9. Just one car in his way, and it is just in front of him now as they go through the first chicane, now up over the hill, down into the sweeping left-hander into the second chicane. Let's see what he does with it. Keeping it, gets very, very close there to the Audi just in front of him. And they are now starting to catch up to a bit of traffic.
Yeah, and they're having dust thrown up at them, looking off the back of just a nice tin. Now with the BMW getting very close, and they contact. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if that was an issue with the car ahead. I was just looking at the onboard. Woo. Yeah, we've got Billy Carlin and Eric Gottsacker just ahead. Just a reminder, those blue flags do not mean move aside. They mean you're going to be lapped, but the lapping car is still has the responsibility to make that pass. The car being lapped, as long as they don't intentionally block, they're enthralled in a battle. They're completely they're not obliged to
sorry to cut you off there, but we had a huge move there by Jack McDonald on the inside of the first chicane and makes contact with the car he's trying to pass, Justin Eistin. and narrowly avoids a much larger incident there. Now Billy Carlin in the crosshairs there, but that one is definitely going to be looked at by the stewards.
Yeah, I saw that Eric Gottsacker was off track simultaneously, so apologies, didn't watch the lead into that.
No worries.
As we've got Justin Eiston now just getting past Billy Carlin, who perhaps will try and drop back into his battle with Eric Gottsacker if they have a gentleman's agreement. But yeah, it's tricky for those guys because they were obviously kind of getting up in front of the two lead cars, or cars by whom they were being lapped.
Well, now it'll be very interesting to see what Jack McDonald's next lap time looks like, and that'll kind of give us the answer as to whether or not he was being held up by traffic or if he is, again, just kind of racing with the folks around the track who are at the same pace as him. But based on the gap he's starting to grow, okay, hold on, I'm sorry, I gotta pull us away from that, is right now Javier Marquez and Matt Byrne are wheel to wheel going into the first corner of this final lap of the race. Matt Byrne gets the switch back through and makes the pass happen in turn one on the final lap of the race, and that was an amazing move made there by Matt Byrne. Not really much Javier Marquez can do about it. Now he's got to find another way around him with a half-second gap and closing. Coming into turn four now, just charged down into the first chicane, and he has already glued himself to the back of the BMW that just got around him. Now 3/10, 2/10, a quarter second or less as he looks to the inside, runs out of room, and they slot in single file through the first chicane, now going up and over the hill into the long sweeping left-hander downhill. Let's see what happens when they get onto the brakes. Javier Marquez still trying to keep the pressure up on Matt Byrne as they go into the second chicane, and they keep things nice and composed and single file. Zach Doran has the best seats in the house to watch this battle for second place on the final lap here at Zolder. Up over the hill, now down into the hairpin. Some traffic out in front of them. That is Roadside Cookie and Felix Payant battling for position just in front of these two as we come around the hairpin there, and we can see up in front those two are wheel to wheel coming into the first corner. I'm going to take the cameras off so we can watch these two. It looks like Roadside Cookie on the inside line. Can he get the power down? He does not. Guillermo Martinez makes a pass in the final corner, and Javier Marquez is going to be beaten by Matt Byrne in the first turn of the final lap, and the blinkers are lit up as the checkered flag waves. Matt Byrne P2, Javier Marquez P3 in the final seconds of this race. My goodness.
That was an incredible ending to this race. Xu Chen taking the win, but I mean, Javier was not going to let that go right up until the end, until the final few corners, and Zach Doran was ready to pick up the pieces there if anything happened. But wow, congrats to Matt Byrne, and that will do him an absolute world of good in the championship standings as well, of which I would imagine he still sits in first place.
That would be my guess as well. But Billy Carlin and Alan Zhu, I believe, are Eric Gottsacker, excuse me, the final two cars really in a close battle for position coming into the final chicane now. Billy Carlin out in front, Eric Gottsacker just behind him, and I think he has run out of time to make that pass happen as they round the final corner. It is going to be the Ferrari in front to cross the line, followed by Eric Gottsacker in P20. And I believe the final car across the checkered line just crosses going to be Jan Stam there. And my goodness, what a race from beginning to end.
Yeah, lots of battles, lots of stuff to see there, and Zolder, what a track.
What a track indeed, my goodness. And it really did come down to the line there in a phenomenal performance by really every car on the track. I think there are definitely going to be some incidents to review, but that was a pretty clean race as far as I'm concerned. But let's go ahead and take this opportunity just to go up and down the final finishing positions here as I'm getting that pulled up right now. So again, congratulations to Xu Chen for a very dominant second half of the race, securing himself a P1 finish, his first of the season, and definitely well earned. We saw some very daring moves there by the Lamborghini driver, doing things Lamborghinis aren't meant to do, and still secures first place, followed by Matt Byrne in P2, Javier Marquez in P3. Zach Doran in P5. As I believe that's Derek Doppler, finishing in P5 for his debut race here at Apollo Racing Club. Tommy Kogan in P6. Rick Reeder in P7. Andrew Jaski in P8. Jack McDonald in P9. And Ice Tin to round out the P10 or the top 10. But that is going to do it for us tonight, folks. Thank you so much, everybody who tuned in to watch the race. I feel like you were rewarded for tuning in to watching the race because it really was a fun one to watch here at Zolder. Tom, any closing remarks on the race we got to watch tonight?
Just that it's going to be really interesting to see where the championship goes with these top drivers going forward. So I would imagine Jeff Spangler will be, or I'd hope Jeff Spangler will be back with us and in the mix in the Honda, the sole Honda driver. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
As am I. So next Saturday, I don't believe actually we're racing next Saturday because it is Thanksgiving weekend. So I believe we have a week off. So join us the week after that. We will be at Snetterton. And if you thought passing was hard here at Zolder, just wait until you see what the Brits have in store for us the next week we're racing. But for tonight, that is going to do it. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that follow button if you haven't already. We have racing every night of the week here, from the Assetto Corsa F1 to we've got IMSARC on Sundays once a month. We've got something to watch for everybody who's into motorsports, so hit that follow button if you haven't already. But that is going to do it for Tom and I tonight. Thank you again for watching. We will see you in 2 weeks at Snetterton. And next week, everybody, you guys have a fantastic Thanksgiving week. Hopefully you get to see some loved ones, enjoy some awesome food, have too many drinks, maybe get in a fight with your uncle. I don't know, but enjoy it nonetheless. We will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we will see you next time here at Apollo Racing Club.